So I want to ask a difficult topic because of the things that we're talking about. So you mentioned earlier in the interview that you wish people really understood what journalism is, and that we have a huge distrust in our nation, in our world, about fake news and how people cover certain things. Sports Illustrated just came out saying they have a company underneath them that's using AI and they had to get rid of that. And then we had the news of Carissa Thompson coming out stating that she made up reports when she was covering NFL on the sidelines. The only person in this podcast that probably took it super personally was me, being an in-game reporter for 15 seasons with the Giants. And I was appalled. I kind of know her. Way back in the day, Celeste and I had worked with her. And part of me in the reaction to that was like, why would you ever say that? Like, well, I don't understand why you would ever admit to that. But when you talk about the pendulum swinging wildly one way, the backlash on any female reporter, any female in-game reporter is huge, in my opinion, that now questions are coming out of the woodwork. Amy, did you make up stuff when you were covering the Giants? Did you make up stuff in MLB Network games when you were on the road because you couldn't get a coach? And so I just want to, we don't have to talk about Carissa as much as what that meant to our industry as female journalists.
Yeah, so I will address the Carissa thing for sure. And I will say that I don't actually know her. But the SIAI thing is terrifying. ESPN several weeks ago on their Sports Center Twitter account deep faked an interview with Dame Lillard. It was an interview that he had given during the bubble when he was a Milwaukee Buck, and they put him, or sorry, when he was a Trailblazer, a Portland Trailblazer, and they put him in a Bucks uniform and made it seem like he had just given that interview right after that game. Not only is shit like that just so unnecessary, there is just not a reason to do it. But because it's happening in something as innocuous, seemingly innocuous as a post-game basketball interview, right? Like, national security secrets aren't being faked here. You know, what's the big deal? The big deal is those are the implications of it, the applications of this kind of thing. And when it starts eroding in journalism at any level, when it starts eroding in journalism that we think covers something that is unimportant, then we get used to it. And then we're not vigilant about it when it happens in shit that is important.
Right.
And, you know, we have seen real political consequences of this and real world consequences of this. So yeah, Dame Lillard interview, that doesn't matter. AI being used by Sports Illustrated, it's sports, you know, whatever. But it's the implications of it that are terrifying to me. And that's why, yeah, it's absolutely a domino effect. The Carissa Thompson thing is, as soon as I saw it, you know, I'm on like 2 or 3 different group chats of friends in the industry, and the chats were blowing up, and we were so disappointed and angry. And also we knew exactly what you said, Amy, was that this was going to cast a spell on every woman reporter in this industry, whether they're a sideline reporter or not. Andrea Kramer, who is a co-worker on Real Sports, who was a longtime sideline reporter, is one of the best to ever do it, is somebody that I respect immensely, gave a tremendous interview to Jenny Vrentis at the New York Times about this. So I recommend everyone go read that. There's so many layers to this, so I'm going to try and break them down in a way that isn't confusing. One is that it says a lot that Carissa Thompson felt so comfortable saying that so casually in both her job security and in the fact that there would be no consequences for her personally outside of maybe some social media backlash, right? And she still has her job.
Sure does.
It also wasn't the first time she had said it. She said it on Erin Andrews' podcast years ago, and Erin also said that she had done the same thing. So what I will say is, I can't imagine what kind of job or public backlash there would have been had Pam Oliver or Maria Taylor said that. You know, like there is a privilege that Erin Andrews and Carissa Thompson have, that they felt so comfortable being able to admit something like that with no consequence.
But I will say, just to interject, as a white female,
sure,
I would have been fired. I
Absolutely.
would have been fired because I am not
Absolutely.
at this elite level. I mean, it was clear. She said, I didn't get fired for saying it before, so I'll say it again.
Right.
So there is this untouchable vibe. And I am also very curious if a male journalist had said it, what would happen?
Yeah, I won't say I won't say the I won't say the anchor's name, but someone texted me something to the effect of, we're not questioning all men just because this person's still on, just because this dude's still on TV. But but you're absolutely right, Amy. And one of the things that I texted one of the chats was, again, I have so many thoughts about this, but one of them was, for so long women could only be sideline reporters. It was the only job available to women. And the men who made that the case are the same men who denigrate the position as unworthy or as throwaway. So that's unfair. Those are also the same men that historically only hired women they were attracted to, right?
100%.
These men made that decision. Now, that does not mean that you cannot be a very attractive woman and also be really good at your job. And what I said was, I feel bad. I mean, I feel bad for everybody who is feeling this consequence, but I especially feel bad for the low level woman who happens to be pretty and blonde at, like, W whatever in Denver, right? Like, who is now going to be questioned every time she gives a sideline report. And again, that probably was the only job available to her. And all of that. So that part of it is very complicated, right? The privilege is that she is white, but the privilege is also that she is white and of a certain level, right?
Yeah.
Then I also think that it's a little bit unfair to Carissa Thompson that she has to represent all women in this industry. Like, I think we all have to be good ambassadors for each other. But as my friend said, just because, insert dude who's on, NFL on CBS or whatever, we don't immediately take when they say dumb shit as indicative that men can't do this job. Right.
Oh, no, there's a
right.
margin for error that men have that women.
Well, they're not representatives of all men.
Right.
Whereas anytime a woman slips up, and this is more than a slip up, I think that, I don't think she's a journalist, and I'm very offended by what she's done and admitted to. But, every time a woman slips up, it is taken as a referendum on all of us. And that's unfair to all of us. It's also unfair to the woman who slips up. So I will give her, I will say that as well. And then it's just
question if it's a slip up though, when you say it twice.
Yes. No. Well, yes.
Fool me once, right?
For sure. But the other, then I go to, well, how do we fix this? Right. Like, and part of this is a very basic journalism question. My immediate reaction was, if you're not getting a quote from a coach, say you didn't get a quote from a coach. One of my biggest issues in journalism writ large right now is that we feel the need to say something just to fill the space, when sometimes just saying nothing at all is the better move. And it's better for our readership and it's better for society. It's just not better for clicks, and it's not better for a 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a feeling of what I took a little bit from it. Celeste, please wait. I'm totally like hammering this thing, so weigh in. But there was this fear of not having something for the hit. And I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like if I couldn't get to a player or a coach in time, but I would never fill that with making something up. I would have something else. I had enough that I could go to something else and say, I'm still following this, haven't gotten to them yet, but I do have this. And also, where is your voice in saying, I don't have anything right now, don't come to me? Like,
right.
You do have some control in the broadcast, at least speaking from personal experience. That's all I can say. There's times we went 18 inning games and we went 6 innings without coming to me, because who the hell am I going to talk to while they're playing? I mean,
how are you getting 18 innings worth of sound bites?
I don't
right?
have it. And so, Amy, it would be so funny. Do you have anything? Nope. Do you think I do? I'm sitting in the dugout. Like, I can tell you that so-and-so has put on, heat warming socks. That's what I can tell you right now. Do you want it? you can have it.
Right. See, but I think that insight is also so valuable, because as we talked about before, people don't understand in general what journalists do. They don't understand how much variation there is in our industry. I've never been a sideline reporter. I can't speak to what that minute by minute or day to day is like from with authority and from that perspective. So it's valuable hearing from people like you and Andrea who have done this and done this well. And then it's the idea that, so this goes back to what we were talking about with the AI and the deep fake. So much of the reaction I've seen online and in social media has been, I mean, she faked an interview with a coach. Like, it's not really a big deal. She didn't like give it, but that's not the point. It's not the point about what the consequence of that immediate decision is. Right. And then I think the unfortunate thing is that we're now taking this not just as a referendum of all women in sports journalism, but as a referendum on the value of sideline reporting itself. And I think that we can all probably reasonably agree that there's a lot of sideline reporting that is filler or seems like throwaway, or, and all of that. But when it's done well, sideline reporting is incredible. Again, like, there were some clips of Andrea from back in the day that started to resurface after this, where I was like, I mean, she's a pro, obviously, but or when the lights go out during the Super Bowl, right? Like, who is reporting on that first? It is exactly. Right. And so I think it's really unfortunate for all of the reasons that we've said, but also because there were already so many people who did not want to trust our industry, who don't trust our industry, who don't think that reporters have ethics or integrity. And anytime that is reinforced, and it's partly our fault, absolutely, we have to own things that we've done wrong in our industry. And whenever an individual reinforces that, it makes me angry, because I believe so much in this as an institution, and frankly, in its importance in our democracy, that even when it's something like football sideline reporting, I'm going to hold that precious.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing is just, and I hear so much of what you're saying, and I think I fit a certain stereotype too, where I feel like I shouldn't have as much of a voice, because I am the white blonde girl that is the sideline person. But when I got the position, it's how you approach it, and it's how precious it was to me to know I was a representation and an extension to the fan base of the team, and that I had the privilege to go talk to Buster Posey and to Boach and Madison Bumgardner and be able to take their words and give them to you as a fan. And I would never drop that or break that, right? Like, that was what my role was. And did I do some marketing and ticket sales and all? Yes. And I was glad, because I had to go on 5 or 6 times, give me something to talk about.
Right.
Those few that connected the fan base to the team, I took so very seriously and genuinely. And that is what broke my heart about the statement, was you're not holding it where it should be. This is a very precious, there's a few spots, and you tarnished it. And now everything that I've done or stood for, and the girl in Denver at W whatever, and now Kavitha is facing her fair share of questioning in any interview you do. Did you really talk to the guy? Or did you really ask that when you're talking to Bryant Gumbel? Is what she's saying true? I mean, that's what happens. And I mean,
especially covering certain things, you have to use unnamed sources, and that makes this makes that so much more difficult now. But I will say something, Amy, like just, to your being a pretty white blonde lady. I mean, that's, I mean, I've had this conversation with Katie Nolan, actually, who is a very pretty white lady, and a friend, and all of that. And it's not your fault that you look a certain way. And it's not your fault that it may have, and I'm not saying it was, but that the way that somebody looks can be a factor in them getting hired for a job. It also doesn't negate whether they are qualified for that job. It adds to it, right? But it says a lot that I think a lot of women get mad at other women for that, instead of the system that is in place that makes that the case. and also
Mhm.
the system that is in place that seems to limit the number of spots available to us. So I did Katie's show a few times, and I think once I think it was about like healthcare or head injuries in college football or something. And this was back when she was at Garbage Time before she joined ESPN.
Mhm.
And I remember her getting a note that was like, this was such a great episode, and you're so good at covering, these serious things, and you had such a serious guest on. Like, why don't you do, real things like this a lot? And she was like, I don't do serious stories because I'm not a serious person. And when I want to do a serious story, I have
Well.
someone like Kavitha on. And I
Mhm.
was like, yeah, there should be room for all of us, frankly. Like, there shouldn't just be this limited number of spots or this one very rigid conception of what a woman in this industry is supposed to either look like or do. So yeah, so that's my other part of that spiel.
Yeah, I think that's important too, to do what you're passionate about.